Hi everyone. Today we're here to talk about OG lesson 88 and we're focused on a new suffix. Remember, a suffix is a letter or letters that is at the end of a word and it changes the meaning or alters the meaning or part of speech. So today we're focused on shun. So this would be the same as if I were to want to write or say the word, whoops, that is really messy, but sun, right? If I were to say sun, but I'm going to change it and I'm going to say shun. So erase that and I'm going to say shun. So this suffix, tion, says shun. Okay? So every time you see that, it says shun. So let's move through our lesson here. And it's a suffix added to the end of a word. So tion says shun. The key word is fiction, and you should know that based on fiction and nonfiction books, right? So fiction is like the gingerbread man, not real, it's false. And nonfiction is when we're learning true facts, right? So for shun, our key word is fiction. So shun, keyword fiction. And then if we write fiction, we would write Fiction. And you are going to practice writing that, right? So remember that a suffix, when we see a word with a suffix, that's going to be a multi-syllable word, multi-syllabic word. So you want to chop off that suffix, cut it off, read the root word, or if it has more than 2 syllables, you would read those other syllables and then add the suffix. So you're going to have to think about the other ways to read multi-syllable words that I've taught you. So is it a CVVC word? Is it, all of those different kinds of syllable patterns that we've learned so far? You're going to have to look for those patterns, figure out how to chop up that word. But the first thing you do is cut off that suffix. Then you look at the root word. How else can you break it down to sound out that word? So let's try. So our first word here, we are going to cut off this suffix, right? So we chop it off. There's shun. Then we read this first part. We have action. So I put a picture up here to help you. Running would be an action, right? So let's go to the next word. The first thing we do is cut off the suffix. So we're going to cut off shun. Then we look at the first part and we have suction. Well, what's happening right here in this picture? In order to drink through a straw, you have to suck up the fluid, right? So suction. So then we have, what's the first thing we have to do? Cut off the suffix. We have shun. Then we read the root word, and you should know this word, right? That's easy. Mention. Well, what does mention mean? So sometimes when you're talking to a friend, you might talk about something that you did on the weekend. Maybe you mentioned that you went to a movie. So what would mention mean? You said it. You talked about it. You mentioned, hey, I saw that movie. Hey, I like that. Mention. Okay? So then we're going to go to this word. Remember, the first thing we do is cut off shun. Then we look at the first part and we have pour. We know this is or, right? Because that's one of our phonograms we've learned, portion. And you should know this. Miss Moberg has taught you lots about portion, right? When you were talking about jump rope for heart and eating healthy and what size of each food group you should eat, right? So this is a portion plate, and it's talking about the sizes of or the amount of food you should eat from each food group. So a portion. We've talked about portions when we've talked about fractions. It's a part of the whole thing, right? So a portion, it's a small part. Portion. So your job now for independent practice would be to go to Seesaw, and you're going to do some reading and some suffix. You're going to add the suffix to the root word. Then you're going to use that in a sentence. So I gave you some examples when I was giving you the definition of what the word meant. You're going to use it in a sentence, and that's going to tell me that you understand that word. So the suffix shun, T-I-O-N, and S-I-O-N, which we're going to get to S-I-O-N later this week. They're usually used to change verbs to nouns. So that's when we talked about it changes the parts of speech. So be aware of unusual spellings. We've talked about that. So sometimes, remember, think back to other OG lessons if you have to drop an E or that kind of thing. So here's some examples. To cancel, add shun. We then have cancellation. Now, what's the special spelling pattern that you see right here? That would be a floss rule because we often double L, F, and S when it's followed by a one-syllable word, but this is a one-syllable. We have can, sell, a, shun. So we have one syllable with one single vowel with one short vowel, right? So that's why that's the floss rule. So you have to think about all those rules that we've learned in the past, think about the special spelling patterns, and make sure that you're spelling them correctly. Then down here we have the verb to expand. We add S-I-O-N. Now, today we're only going to focus on T-I-O-N. So let me show your practice for today. You're going to add the correct suffix. And again, today we're just focused on T-I-O-N. To each verb to show it that it's a noun. Then you are going to make sure it's spelled correctly. So you're going to write it right here. You can use the text tool or the drawing tool to write it. It's really best to use the text box because then I can read it carefully. Sometimes when you use the drawing tool, I can't read the handwriting in Seesaw. So keep that in mind. Then you're going to use that noun in a sentence, and that helps me know that you understand how that word is used, the meaning of the word. So we have to educate. You're going to add shun. You're going to write the new word here, and then down here in this space, you're going to type a sentence. Okay? You have this word and this word. Then you're going to record yourself reading these words, and that's it. That's all you have for today.